He won't have to face Chris until the finals, should they ever meet.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty cool top 8. Enchantress being in the top 8 is kind of a strange thing.
Yeah, very.
I mean, there aren't
many decks that really prey on that. I think
Enchantress.
Dustin Taylor could do really well there.
Yes, I agree. Rug being a tempo deck, playing against one of the, not exactly a combo deck. Enchantress loses to the other combo decks, but Enchantress being the type of deck that beats the other, like, fair decks, let's say. So Bennett is going to keep his 7. Chris mulliganed to 6. He is on the play by virtue of being the number 2 overall seed, and he will search his library for a forest.
Yeah, Bennett Snyder made it all the way to the finals in the Open in Madison, Wisconsin, just a few weeks ago, maybe about a month and a half ago now.
Also in Legacy?
Yes.
Same deck?
Yes.
Wow. So we have 2 experts facing off against one another. Unless either of them would like to admit to being unruly lucky there. I imagine we can safely say that both of them are very, very expert in both of their fields.
Ooh, that is a
that is a black bordered volcanic island. So basic forest for Chris and black bordered volcanic island. Don't know if it's foreign black bordered or more expensive. And foil Delver of Secrets. All right, well.
Chris Andersen's side of the board not worth quite as much as Bennett Snyder's side of the board.
You know, we discussed earlier that Elves, not the most expensive deck ever. And looks like Bennett Snyder's is the most expensive deck ever. So, oh, there we go. We're evening it up a little bit with the Gaia's Cradle from Chris Andersen. He is going to tap 2 mana here for presumably this Green Sun Zenith. Thinking about it, weighing his options. Chris also has Crop Rotation, Heritage Druid, and Glimpse of Nature in hand.
Now, this Green Sun Zenith, maybe...
So Bennett decides to daze this Green Sun Zenith. Chris deciding whether or not he wants to pay for it. He will. And it will now resolve. So that's a very interesting choice here.
Yes.
This might belie a larger strategy from Bennett. He does have 2 main deck Forked Bolts. I don't know if I saw them in his hand. So he may be trying to use that Forked Bolt to get a 2-for-1 and have Chris have nothing else on the board. Still very...
Quirine Ranger, interesting choice by Chris here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's in his hand. Maybe does he have a Crop Rotation in hand?
Yes, he does.
Okay, then yeah, and he presumably does not have a 3rd land.
Yes.
Okay.
The other thing about Quirine Ranger is that it will protect him from the Forked... Or no, he won't protect him from the Forked Bolt. I apologize. I was thinking of the other untapped creature in his deck, Wirewood Symbiote. So yeah, very interesting choice from Chris. This is going... The Crop Rotation in Chris's hand is going to allow for a lot of mana to be generated on the next turn, with the 2nd Gaia's Cradle possibly being searched out. Bennett's going to replay that Volcanic Island. He did not flip the Delver of Secrets.
As he drew a Nimble Mongoose, I believe. Surprised that he played that over the Tropical Island then.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, he may be trying to bolt something out of Chris. 1/1 serves into the red zone on Bennett's side of the board. Chris deciding whether or not he's going to block here.
Yeah,
looks like he did. Bennett was thinking if he was going to do anything else, and he passes the turn. Chris draws Wirewood Symbiote.
It's a really good draw step.
That is a very good draw step. Chris might be able to combo off this turn, actually.
Yes.
He's at least going to go for a Glimpse of Nature turn, which is going to draw him at least 2 cards. At least 3 cards, mind you. Sorry, Wirewood. Well, at least 2 cards. Wirewood Symbiote will hopefully be able to draw him more.
Bennett aggressively looking for a Force of Will here.
So there is a copy of Glimpse of Nature. It's a rare from Champions. When you play a creature spell this turn, draw a card.
Heritage Druid. I'm going to draw Chris another card here.
Heritage Druid and Elf Druid from Morningtide. Tap 3 untapped elves you control, add 3 green mana to your mana pool. The upside down usage there signifying the use of the Quirion Ranger.
Yes, it has an ability that can only be used once per turn. It's a really good way to do that.
Yes.
Being very clear with your opponent.
So here's Quirion Ranger. Return a forest you control to its owner's hand. Untap target creature. Use this ability only once each turn. He then plays a Wirewood Symbiote.
2 green mana floating now, and access to another 4 from the Cradle.
Wirewood Symbiote. Return an elf you control to its owner's hand to untap target creature. And play this ability only once each turn. We're giving you the images of all of these cards because they are not highly played in any other decks. So it's possible that it's unlikely you've seen them elsewhere.
Yeah, Wirewood Symbiote, if you remember, Louis Scott Vargas won Pro Tour Berlin playing a deck that used that very effectively. Chris Andersen going to tap the Gaia's Cradle for 4 mana.
Before crop rotating it, presumably to get the second Gaia's Cradle, as I predicted.
Yes.
Yes, there
and
it
that's
is.
very nice for Chris. So now he has 5 mana floating. His opponent's tapped out and didn't force that Glimpse. So
right.
Chris can pretty much just go off safely. He just has to play around Daze. And
with a Gaia's Cradle active and several mana in his mana pool,
yeah, 5
looks like he's
floating
going
and
to be
Cradle.
able to do that. So here we are going to have a Glimpse of Nature. Or no, we're going to get another Green Sun Zenith.
So 9 mana, he's going to use 8 of that. So 1 floating and Green Sun Zenith for a Regal Force.
Yes. There's Regal Force. Regal Force, a 7 mana 5/5 from Eventide. When Regal Force comes into play, draw a card for each green creature you control. That, of course, counts itself. So Chris will be drawing 5 cards here.
Yeah, and that's going to be really rough for Bennett.
There's the 5 from Chris. Looks like he's got Llanowar Elf, 2 lands.
And he has multiple glimpses in there also.
Multiple glimpses, yes.
So,
so should he choose to do so, he can definitely go off with ease this turn. If he has the mana. I'm not sure how much mana he has left.
yeah, he
in
only
his
has
mana
1
pool.
floating now, so
It's likely
it's
that
going to
he
be a
would just
little
use
difficult,
that.
but
he has the mirror entity. So it's likely he's not going to... Oh, he is. Okay.
yeah, he can. Depending on what creatures he has in hand, he can still go through the motions.
He played his land for the turn, was this forest. Correct?
Correct.
Because he did return a forest to his hand with the Quirion Ranger. He has not yet used his Wirewood Symbiote.
No, he's not. So Symbiote untapping, and Bennett decides to concede, which actually Chris was not going to win that turn, but
Bennett deciding to concede anyway, facing down insurmountable pressure. A turn 2 5/5 joined alongside a lot of 1/1s.
yeah, and it was going to be a lot more 1/1s, and Chris was going to end the turn with a full hand
Yep.
of very powerful spells. So he would have had to discard on his end step once that turn ended,
Yeah.
and depending on what he drew into there, once he used the Symbiote and untapped and then Visionary, there's a chance that he could have just gone off and killed his opponent that turn.
Yes. And Bennett's tempo hand was unlikely to come back from that. Well,
Yep.
we are back, and we are in the top 8, which means we have a trivia question for you. We're going to be giving away 3 months of SCG Premium.
Yes, so what you're going to do is we're going to ask you a trivia question, and you're going to tweet your answer to hashtag SCG Premium.
Right.
And
hashtag
then we're
SCG
going to...
Premium, not hashtag SCGINVI. SCG Premium is the only
Yes.
way that we're going to count results.
Yes, and you tweet your answer in. If you get the answer correct, your name is going to be chosen at random amongst the people who answered correctly, and if your name gets chosen, you win 3 free months of premium.
Yeah.
So without further ado, in all of Magic, what is the only creature with the printed creature type, Brushwag?
What is the only
Brushwag,
creature?
however you wanna pronounce it.
Sure. What is the only creature in Magic with the printed creature type of Brushwag?
Yes,
So
and it
tweet
matches
your-
the Oracle text.
Yes, it does. So tweet your answers to hashtag SCG Premium. You're allowed to add hashtag SCG Invi or at SCG Live or any of those.
Remember, we're looking for something that says creature hyphen Brushwag.
We're not looking for changelings.
No changelings here. No, I don't want to see any like Mistform Ultimus. Not going to count
Shenanigans.
that.
Not going to count those. We want the printed creature type of Brushwag. So tweet your answers to hashtag SCG Premium, and we will announce a winner after this round.
Now, Shang Tsung is not Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero is Sub-Zero. So again, only creatures with the printed creature type.
That's right. Good reference. All right, so moving to the sideboards here, Chris Andersen has 3 Meekstone in his sideboard. Those are pretty much exclusively for Rug.
Yeah, they shut down all of Rug's creatures. The Delvers are not shut down before they are flipped, but I mean,
They don't cause much of a problem before
yeah,
they're
a
flipped.
1/1 not going to be very good against Chris's deck. Chris's deck is full of 1/1s itself that are all very good at generating card advantage. So
I don't think anything else is going to come in here. Doesn't look to me like anything else is going to come in here. Yeah, I would find it unlikely that anything else would come in. So yeah, just the Meekstones. Meanwhile, on Bennett's side of the board, he's going to have to do something to try to slow down the Green Men menace.
yeah, and he has a Dismember and 4 Submerges, so those are going to be really important, and he's going to have to bring those in. But in a lot of ways, it's going to be really hard for him, even after he gets these Submerges and Dismembers.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, Submerge will pretty much delay a turn. It's not particularly good to submerge elves. They've already got 4 guys on the board, presumably.
Yeah, and while they're glimpsing, it's really bad to do,
Yeah.
so you really just want to do it aggressively
Yes.
as they're playing the guys on their early turns. So, yeah, I mean, he's got to bring in the Submerges, he's got to bring in the Dismember. Nothing else in his sideboard is really that good. In his main deck, he has some cards that aren't really the best. Spell Pierce, I mean, it only hits Glimpse, and a lot of the time, when Chris casts Glimpse and he's going to win with it,
Right.
he usually has enough mana to pay for that anyway. He's going to be playing
Glimpse
around that
really the only realistic target. I mean, he could Spell Pierce a Green Sun Zenith or a Crop Rotation, I guess, but Glimpse the only dangerous card he could Spell Pierce. So I would definitely see that coming out.
Yeah, and the other card Bennett Snyder could side out is the other cards that he could side out are Daze and Stifle.
Yes.
A lot of people think Stifle is good against elves, but that is not correct.
No. All of the activated abilities, I won't say all, most of the activated abilities in elves are mana abilities. And once the mana starts flowing, it's tough to get it stopped. And stifling a Wirewood Symbiote or a Quirion Ranger activation or even a Mirror Entity activation, not particularly good.
Yeah, but this is a matchup that is strongly in Chris's favor. Chris is the hometown hero, an Indiana native, looking to take down the open event. He has not won one. Chris has top-8 events with elves before.
Yes.
More than one event. He is always playing elves in Legacy. Occasionally, he talks about how he's going to play another deck, and then you'll see him at
And
the
then he
tournament.
never
just plays
does.
elves.
Yep.
And I don't blame him. It's one of the most fun decks to play.
Absolutely.
In Magic.
Yeah, if you know what you're doing, it's fantastic.
It's also one of the most difficult decks to play.
Yes, very difficult to play elves correctly. We were commenting on one of Chris's decks, or one of Chris's matches earlier, and we were clearly not. We were praying at the feet of the master when it came to trying to comment on Chris Andersen playing against Rudy Briska in an earlier match. So yeah, he's very, very good. I used to live in Columbus with Riley Curran, another known elves player, and those two are often commiserate on elves at tournaments since they're both well-known elvesmen. So
It's good to be an elvesman.
it is. Bennett Snyder, on the other hand, is a Delvesman. Let's see if he has something. Nope, he's just going to play his land and pass. That was such a good segue, and he didn't play a Delver. I'm so upset. Chris is going to play Forest and pass here with Fyndhorn Elves and Llanowar Elves in hand.
And Meekstone.
And Meekstone, sure.
Just playing around days.
He is playing around days. That's exactly right. No need to hurry. So Fyndhorn Elves for Chris Andersen.
Yeah, in no rush. After Bennett made that play in game 1, perhaps Chris was under the assumption that he could get him.
Yeah.
By getting him to try to daze things when he could pay for it again.
Right.
Maybe Bennett's under the impression that denying the 1 mana is really important against elves.
When in fact it really isn't that much. Chris is likely going to sandbag this Savannah until later in the game, because it's a... Is it a Savannah? Oh no, that's the Meekstone. I apologize. He does not have Savannah. He has a 3rd Forest for Elvish Visionary.
Yeah, so we can expect if something's going to get countered, it's probably going to be Elvish Visionary. It's rough to force it, but Bennett has a really reactive hand, so he doesn't even have a 2nd land. And Chris, not the best draw step, another Meekstone. But, you know, at this point, he's pretty far ahead. He might just want to start attacking with some 1/1s.
I would definitely agree.
And Chris decides to cast a Priest of Titania, going to make his mana really explosive. And that gets Force of Willed, presumably.
Right.
Yep, so
I'm sure
Bennett deciding what he's going to run for the game.
Was going to happen. Removing Stifle.
Bennett down to 19 now from that Force of Will.
Winning
Yes.
the game is Chris. And there's a Meekstone.
Yes, Meekstone. A card that's not played that much, but a card that's incredibly strong against the Reg Delver deck.
Yep. Meekstone, a 1-mana artifact from 5th edition, among other sets. The one that is on Chris's board here is from 5th edition. Creatures with power greater than 2, or otherwise said 3 or greater, do not untap during their controller's untap steps. So that effectively shuts off all of Rug Delver's creatures. It does not hold down a... There's Meekstone for you. It does not... It is a continuous artifact in that particular picture there.
Yes.
That's going to get Spell Pierced, actually. So Spell Pierced did stay in for Bennett.
And I really like that from Chris. Chris chooses to play the Meekstone when his opponent is able to daze and or Spell Pierce it.
Yep.
Because he has a 2nd copy in his hand, so he wants the first one to get countered.
Yes. Very good. Now, Meekstone will shut down if one resolves, which Bennett does have a Force of Will in hand. So if one resolves, Chris will effectively be able to shut down all of Bennett's important creatures. It does not shut down Delver of Secrets itself, but it will shut down Insectile Aberration, as well as Tarmogoyf and a Thresholded Nimble Mongoose.
Yeah, Bennett, perhaps not really sure what the most important cards are in Chris' deck. Force of Will the Priest of Titania before, and did not Force of Will a green Sensitive for 1.
Yeah.
And that Wirewood Symbiote is just going to get completely out of hand for Chris.
Absolutely.
Chris attacking for 1 now. Post-combat. Going to
return it to
tap
his hand.
Fyndhorn Elves, untap Fyndhorn Elves, return Visionary to his hand. Retap the Fyndhorn Elves, play Visionary, and
see what Bennett does here. Bennett,
he can force this.
He can force this if he so chooses. Now that he has seen, now that Chris has displayed the engine, he can force the Visionary to try to stop the engine. Unfortunately, for Bennett, Chris has another Elvish Visionary in hand. So
and Bennett just brainstorm locked himself. He doesn't have another land in the top 3 cards.
Oh no.
It's going to be really rough.
Elvish Visionary there from M10, originally from Shards of Alara. When Elvish Visionary enters the battlefield, draw a card for 2 mana. And another Meekstone from Chris. So Bennett not in the greatest position of all time here. He does have a Ponder and a Lightning Bolt. Yep, Lightning Bolt is going to hit the symbiote.
And that's really important there.
Yeah, getting rid of the symbiote, very important to doing anything this game.
Elvish Visionary for Chris. And draw me another card. And then in he comes for 2. And
thus begins the March of the Tiny Green Men.
yeah, Chris just playing lands, getting his mana to the point where, I mean, now if he happens to top deck a Regal Force, he can actually hard cast it.
Yeah.
A Ponder from Bennett Snyder.
Chris deciding if he wants to fetch land here to avoid Stifle, choosing not to. He's going to let Bennett cast the Stifle if he really wants to. This is 3 more non-land spells on the top for Bennett Snyder. But he's going to keep it.
Yeah.
Because he got a Ponder, I believe. Or no, it was a Delver of Secrets. So he will be able to have a clock, if nothing else.
But it's not really a clock because there's Meekstone on the table.
That's true.
So Chris now,
yeah.
cracking this Verdant Catacombs, going to grab himself a Savannah or a Basic Forest. Probably a Basic Forest. But, Dryad Arbor.
Dryad Arbor.
Much
adding
better,
to
yeah.
the clock.
I mean, just getting aggro.
Yeah, why cast any more spells? We're attacking for 6 this coming turn.
Yeah, lots of 1/1s getting in there.
Yep. 3-turn clock for Chris against Bennett. This might make Bennett long for the days back when Rug Delver sideboards ran Rough Tumble in their
Yes.
sideboards to be able to deal with situations such as this.
Rough Tumble, a kind of fun split card. Deals either 2 damage to all creatures without flying or 6 damage to all creatures with flying.
Right, for either 2 or 6 mana. And Bennett is going to scoop him up, seeing the writing on the wall. He did not have what he needed on top of his library. Chris Andersen very quickly winning his semifinal match. And you see the players... Bennett is showing what his hand was, I suppose, to see what Chris's opinion of it was, of his opener. Just seeing the opinion.
I don't know, you really need spot removal.
Yeah, I think that's not. You definitely want to have a red spell of some kind against elves.
I mean, it's a bad matchup.
It is
like
a very bad matchup. That's true.
So I mean, elves really wants to avoid decks that are faster than it, or decks that have cards that are extremely good against them. Like a deck that can have an engineered explosive sitting on the table, for example, is very good against elves.
Absolutely. Well, we are back here in the booth. I am Ruben Bressler. This is Jacob Van Lunen, and we are bringing you live coverage of the top 8 of the Legacy Open.
Yeah,
we just sorry.
Oh, no worries. I was going to say that we're just about to have a trivia winner.
Right. We are about to have a trivia winner. Before we went into Game 2, I believe, we asked you a question. The question was, what is the only creature in Magic with the printed creature type of Brushwag? And the answer is...
Brushwag.
Brushwag was the answer.
Ye old Brushwag.
Ye old Brushwag. Brushwag, it has the swag, as one of the respondents mentioned, which is very funny. So,
Brushwag, because it is the only creature with the creature type Brushwag, I believe it is an acceptable EDH general by some people's standards.
That'd be awesome, but I don't think so.
And I don't think anybody's complain.
No one's going to complain if your general is
if your general
Brushwag.
is the Brushwag.
So yes, we do have a winner. The winner is At Large Brandon. So congratulations, At Large Brandon. You have won 3 months of Star City Games Premium. So send Star City Games a message or give us a call with your information. If you already have an account, we will add 3 months of premium to your account. If you don't have an account, create one, and we will add the months on to that.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Just won 3 free months. So
we have another match coming very quickly.
Yeah, just in a minute. Do we know which match we're going to have?
We are going to get Rudy Briska versus Josh Glatzman. Rudy is on Esper Stoneblade, which we saw earlier, and Josh is playing Maverick.
This is a match that was extremely common at the last Invitational. Yeah. These were the 2 most played decks in that tournament. Since then, this weekend, I think, coming in, everybody thought Legacy was going to be a combo winter.
Yes.
Everybody was worried about Grizzlebrand. It has done exceptionally well in the past few weeks, and increasingly well. This weekend, it fell off completely. A lot of people played Grizzlebrand in the Invitational. They did not do very well. The win percentage for the Grizzlebrand decks was below 50%. Once we got toward the end of day 2, there were I think, how many players top 8'd that were playing Grizzlebrand? It was either 1 or 2.
I think it was 1. I could be mistaken.
And it was over 25% of the field.
Yes.
Yeah, so Grizzlebrand did not perform as well as expected this weekend, and instead we're moving back to these interactive Legacy decks that make the format what everybody loves so much.
Yeah, and after a little while of not really doing very well, Maverick putting 2 in the top 8 here.
Yeah, and I mean, with 2 Maverick players in the top 8, that's got to say something about the amount of combo in the room. Maverick is a deck that people normally play because it does so well against people who are not playing combo decks. So if 2 of these people were able to make top 8, they successfully navigated their way through the field while dodging enough combo decks to make it into the elimination rounds.
So I stand corrected, there were 2 Reanimator decks in the top 8 of the Invitational, played by Max Tietz and Jerry Thompson.
Ah, yes. Oh yeah, Max also played the Reanimator.
Yes.
You're right. Max killed himself with a Grizzlebrand, actually.
Did he really?
Yes.
How did he do that?
Well, he ended up, the judges made him take it back and put the 7 cards back because he did not have the 7 life to pay.
To pay, right.
But he didn't realize that he didn't have the 7 life to pay because he had never played with the card Reanimate before. Ah. And didn't realize that it dealt him the damage, so he drew 14.
I see. Very, very awkward. So we see Rudy Briska on the left, Josh Glantzman on the right. Josh is up a game, game 1. So Rudy will be on the play.
Yeah, with Rudy on the play, I'm going to have to say that he's got the advantage in this game. But overall in the match, I think Maverick is favored against these Esper Stoneblade decks.
Absolutely.
The Maverick decks adapted to the Esper Stoneblade decks after Esper Stoneblade won the GP in the hands of Tom Martell. Tom Martell, an up-and-coming professional player, 2 Grand Prix top 8s so far this year already, including a win in Legacy. It's nice to see somebody like Tom Martell, who's been working on his game for so long, finally seeing all that work come to fruition.
Yeah, and, absolutely.
It's paying off.
Nicely done.
Good stuff, Tom Martell, if you're listening.
So out of Josh Glantzman, he has a Natural Order Progenitus sideboard, but not for this matchup. We may see that should he move on against a different matchup. He does, however, have Chokes, which will almost certainly be brought in against Rudy. He may have brought in, I would imagine he did not bring in the Bojuka Bog.
No, I don't think so. You might want the Bojuka Bog to remove Lingering Souls from the graveyard, but it's not really the greatest of things. I think your plan against those types of cards is really just your Jitte.
Agreed.
Life from the Loam, I think, is his best card here.
Yeah.
Life from the Loam, just so strong in so many matchups. I've always been really surprised that more people don't just play the 1-copy main deck.
Yeah, I agree. It's very strong. In the matchups, it's strong. It's great. In the matchups, it's not strong. You know what? You could do worse than getting your fetch lands back. Also notable in Josh's deck, he has 3 main deck Scavenging Ooze to be able to handle Rudy's Lingering Souls. He also has a Fauna Shaman to be able to search for with Green Sun Zenith. Should he want to search for the Linvala out of the board in a later game. He can also discard the Progenitus should it end up stranded in his hand. So Rudy is going to play Thoughtseize off of a basic swamp, presumably anticipating a choke from Josh or a wasteland. Josh is going to show a hand of 2 fetch lands, Horizon Canopy, Dryad Arbor, Swords to Plowshares, and Thalia, Guardian of Thraben.
Not the most exciting of hands for Josh here, but on the mulligan, he's going to have to see what this can do. And now with just a Thalia as action, Josh has got his work cut out for him. He's really got to top deck pretty well here. And he drew another land. That's not what he wants to see.
It's most certainly not. Now,
And,
the other thing is he's only running 1 Dryad Arbor, whereas some lists, including Michael Antrim, run 2. That's one of the more interesting things about Michael's list, actually. Turn 2, Stoneforge Mystic for Umezawa's Jite for Rudy.
An interesting play from Rudy, perhaps telling that he already has Batterskull in his hand.
Yes.
Yes, so AJ Carrigan correctly pointing out that Maverick, while most combo matchups not very good, it does have a good sneak and show matchup, depending on the list, and it also does have a good storm matchup.
Mostly based on Thalia.
Yeah, and it has the Gaddock Key and the Thalia. So.
Yes. So there's a way to dig out of some problems. There's a Sylvan Library.
Yeah, and Sylvan Library is especially strong in a matchup like this, where Josh's opponent has Swords to Plowshares in his deck. Josh's deck plays really big Knight of the Reliquaries that are hard for a deck like Esper Stoneblade to counter, and Esper Stoneblade is leaning on its Swords to Plowshares to deal with those. So it's going to make Josh gain a whole bunch of life, and then he can translate that into more cards.
Yes. There's Sylvan Library. This card has been updated so many times, it's almost difficult to know what the current Oracle text is, but essentially during your upkeep, it counts as drawing cards, but the current ruling, of course, is that you get to look at the top 3 cards of your library before you draw. You may pay 4, you can rearrange them, then you may pay 4 life to put 2 of those cards in your hand, 8 life if you want to put all 3 in your hand, or you may choose to not pay any life and draw 1 card as normal.
Yeah, now this card has incredible synergy with the high number of fetch lands that are played in Maverick, because if you get to the point where there are 3 cards that you don't really want on the top of your library, you can just shuffle them away. And here we see that Rudy Brixa did in fact have the Batterskull in hand.
That's right.
It would have been surprising for him to have searched for Umezawa's Jite if he did not have Batterskull.
Yep.
Now, a big problem with Josh's deck is, we saw that he was getting flooded, and he does have a bunch of lands in hand. Sylvan Library will help him get out of that, but many other decks in Legacy have access to Brainstorm, so they can put the excess lands they draw back on the top of their deck and then shuffle them away with various shuffle effects.
Yes.
Maverick does not have that luxury.
We have some news from one of the other matches. Dustin Taylor and Travis Reed, the Rug vs. Enchantress matchup, is moving on to Game 3. Another interesting thing about Maverick is, I think it does have, if it doesn't have the most, it has some of the most. Catching a choke off guard there. Off the Inquisition from Rudy. That's fairly good, although Rudy managed to go get Swamp Plains to be able to avoid some of the pain that choke would bring.
Yeah, Rudy playing quite well. Both these players were able to see the other's deck list prior to the match. Rudy recognized that his opponent would likely be bringing in chokes, and therefore aggressively fetched lands that were not islands.
News from one of the other matches, Brad Campbell on Goblins is up 1 game on Michael Antrim on Maverick. So we may get our wish and see the dual deck matchup in the semifinals of Elves versus Goblins.
Elves versus Goblins dual decks in the
That's
Legacy
right,
semifinals.
in the Legacy semifinals. Slightly updated lists, but
Yes, slightly.
I would say no Timberwatch Elf in Cranderson's 75.
Highly doubtful.
So I was saying that I think that Maverick probably has some